She's just hamming it up. Ah.
胸パッドじゃな。つけると胸が大きくなる不思議アイテムじゃ。いいもん揉めてよかったの。これで貸し借りなしじゃな。
こんなもん。
Oh man.
おい。おい。
I was gonna say he's gonna get smacked again. Oh.
俺はずっと追いかけていたもんをやっと
Yeah.
掴んだん
He
です。
had it built up to this, like.
でもいざ掴んでみるとそんなもんは俺が思っていたより大したことなくて、もしかしたらこれから俺がまた何か違うもんを追いかけて掴んだ時も追いかけてた頃の方が幸せだったって思うんじゃない
Yeah. Great shot though. Look at that.
初めて胸を揉んでみたら大したことなかったって話です。
エッチなことはね、相手のことを理解すればするほど気持ちよくなれると私は思うんだ。相手の心を理解するのは難しいことだから。最初は手をじっくり観察してみて。指の長さは
Jesus.
どれくらい？
Look at this animation.
覚えて。デンジ君の目が見えなくなっても私の噛む力で私だってわかるくらいに覚えて。
Oh, she's doing a number on him. She can't have him be all down in the dumps. Oh my goodness.
覚えました。
Hey man, leave Denji alone. Oh. Wow, look at this. That hit different, didn't it?
お願いがあるんだけど
Of course.
いいかな。銃の悪魔を倒してほしいの。
銃の悪魔。
Gun Devil.
13年前米国に出現して今もどこにいるかわからない。
He's
私
framing.
ね、デンジ君なら殺せると思う。
Is that right?
君は他のデビルハンターの誰
Oh
よ
yeah, she knew that right from the
特別だ
beginning.
から。
Oh,
もしもデンジ君が銃の悪魔を殺せたら
time to entice him?
私が君の願い事何でも一つ叶えてあげる。悪魔対策に世界中が銃で儲けようとしてた時期に銃を使った事件や内戦が増えたんだ。メディアも活発にニュースを取り上げ、銃が
Mm.
前よりも怖がられるようになったあたりかな。
Yeah.
アメリカで銃を使った大きなテロが起こったの。その日に銃の悪魔が現れた。
太陽が元気な時なんてないじゃん。
お兄ちゃんなんだから我慢して一人で
Wow,
遊
I
びなさい。
love the look of this. Look at this.
僕お兄ちゃんと遊びたい。
Oh. Wow.
俺は一人で遊べるんだ。
Wow. Okay, is one of them Aki? They both kind of look like a young Aki. Is that Aki?
弱で120万人を殺した
Wow,
後、
oh my god.
銃の悪魔は今日まで姿を消している。
It's Aki. It was Aki.
その後、悪魔そのものに対する恐怖が高まって、すべての悪魔が 以前よりも力が強く
The
な
fear
っ
of
たの。
devils themselves.
デンジ君なら倒せると思う。
Of course he thinks he can.
なんていうか、俺がすっげえドカンと頑張れば大丈夫でしょ。
それならまずは
Oh,
銃の悪魔を見つけなきゃだね。
どうやってそいつは見つけるんです？
これは集めた銃の悪魔の肉片。移動速度が速すぎて体が少し
whoa,
焦げ落ちたみたい。
whoa.
悪魔がこの肉片を食べると銃の悪魔の力でどんな悪魔でも力を増すの。
見つけました。
Oh,
やっぱり銃野郎の肉片食べてたか。ずっと
はあ
悪魔にしちゃ強かったからな。食べたのか
what?
食べさせたのか。
悪魔は全部殺す。その先に奴がいる。
ホテル内部で悪魔の目撃。
Whoa!
ホテルの宿泊者の生存不明。駆除に
Squad
当
up.
たった民間のデビルハンター複数人が死亡。 おそらく銃の悪魔の肉片を食べている悪魔です。6人を出動させます。
お前ら、敬語はどうした？
は？何の得もねえのに誰がてめえに敬語使うかよ。早川先輩。
先輩。
よし。
やり
He's like, come on,
早
really?
川先輩。
こいつめっちゃキレてんじゃん。朝のあれのせいだな。
あのいたずらはさすがにまずかったな。
あれはいたずらレベルじゃねえ。
Prank? Do tell.
うわ、何があったの？
Look at her in the background.
ハキ君、厳しくしてばっかじゃかわいそうだよ。おお。
I don't like her.
私が一肌脱いでやろう。今回の悪魔を倒した人にはなんと私がほっぺにキスしてあげまーす。ご褒美あった方がやる気出るでしょねえ。
He had a solid grip there.
キスは俺もいいや。大丈夫。やる気はあった。
あら、
その人のために肉片だかなんだかを集めてよ。
Aki's reaction should
銃
be
の悪
fun.
魔をぶっ殺すまでキスはしねえ。エッチなことは理解し合った人間同士でするから気持ちが
Ah, look at this.
いい。名前も知らねえあんたの唇には興味ないね。
へえ。
Now she's
じ
probably.
ゃあ、デンジ君が悪魔を倒したらベロを入れたキスしてあげる。
おい、待て。あの子は来てんだ。止まれ。
Look at this dude.
男の子からかうのが一番面白い。
Yeah, she's good at it.
小紅ちゃんは引っ込み思案だけど、かなり
Yeah,
動け
really
るか
quite
な。
timid.
アキ君は死なないでね。
Wow. Flashback? Oh, right.
お前の新しいバディだ。ブレーダーが少しは使えるように育て
That's the guy from the opening, right?
俺はアキ。
Oh,
よろしく。
this is so good.
私のバディ、君で6人目。全員死んでるの。
Uh,
使えない雑魚だから全員死んだ。アキ君は死なないでね。
しかしよ、悪魔なんて
it's all a bit too fun at the moment.
来る。捕まえた。
Ooh.
悪魔め、わしにビビって浮き合ったわ。
違う、私の力。
なんじゃ？
私は幽霊の悪魔と契約
The
して、
ghost devil.
私の右目を食べさせた代わりにゴーストの右手を使えるって。
How cool.
じゃあわしがこいつを殺すと言ったらどうする？
武器を引っ込めな。悪いことしたらいつでも首を絞め殺せるぞ。
Oh.
めんどくさいから仲良くやろうよ。
お前たちまだ悪魔が潜んでるんだぞ。もう少し静かに。
Oh. Oh. It's the same floor?
俺、8階から9階へ行く階段を登りましたよね。あ、ここも8階ですよ。
間
Whoa.
違いじゃねえの？
違う。
Yeah, he's right.
確認してくれ。
俺ステーキ食って
Here
る
he comes.
新井くん今
Yeah.
階段降りていったよね。
あ
Keep it together. Keep it together. Ah! Okay then. Okay, episode 5 of Chainsaw Man. But first of all, that ending. Phenomenal. Phenomenal. I mean, that might be the best one yet. Right? They keep upping it. But you know, this one, it really felt quite unique in its delivery, in its presentation. Quite fascinating because it appears to have so much insight, essentially. A lot of references. I mean, the art style and a lot of the imagery. You know, it's visually striking, of course. You know, it appears to be taking a lot of inspiration or referencing Escher's art. And I love how it actually even kind of continues thematically from that final scene, from that cliffhanger. So again, you know, the production has been so impressive. And I know I've been saying it for some time now, but you can't help but be impressed by it, right? It's just so impressive. You know, of course you get the episodes, and then you get these endings that feel like these experiences, these unique experiences by themselves. And, you know, things like, you know, the forbidden fruit, the apple, that kind of doubles as the heart that explodes in that one shot, right? And the blood splatters all over the, you know, the paintings on the walls. And of course, you see that one image of Makima and the Chainsaw Man. I mean, it's really quite unmissable, isn't it? The meaning behind that. And then, of course, you know, speaking of Makima, you have that potential depiction of the two sides of Makima, right? You have a lot of horses in this one, you know, the different types of horses, of course, a little bit of perhaps, you know, the horsemen of the apocalypse in that sense. But, you know, the one that really stood out is the last one. The last one, oh my goodness. I mean, you see that its nose is actually kind of like the barrel of a shotgun or some kind of rifle. And then you see that a solid chunk of the head is actually made up of fingers, but not just any fingers. It's in the same pose as Aki's summoning pose, right? That fox that he kind of summons. And then, of course, you know, you see the eyes all over that horse as well, much like the fox. Yeah. So that is interesting, right? And, you know, the tail is also, crap. I can't remember the term, but it's kind of like, you know, bullets. It's like a belt of bullets. Right? I totally butchered that. I'm not sure the exact term. Can't seem to, you know, think of it at the moment. But yeah, it's interesting. It really is. You know, mixing in things that are associated with Aki. And then, of course, on the other end, you have elements that are essentially associated with the gun devil, essentially, right? The guns, bullets, guns, you know, the barrel of the gun. So I thought that was a really interesting marriage of those two. And I say the elements that are kind of associated with the gun devil because I don't even know, you know, what the damn thing looks like. I don't think anyone really knows, right? Because I'll get into it in a bit, but it appears it only made the one and only appearance and then it disappeared, right? It made that appearance 13 years ago. And then since then, it's kind of gone underground. But I do know that the makeup of it, or the flesh, is essentially bullets, right? And, you know, that thing he said in the last episode, Aki, during his report to Makima, you know, he mentioned the gun flesh, right? That they didn't find any traces of it. So now it makes sense, right? Now I have context. And then, of course, you know, the song choice of that ending is just so much fun as well. Again, you know, there's no lyrics or no translation for the lyrics. So that's always interesting, right? It kind of adds a totally different level to it all. Totally different perspective once you do have the translation for the lyrics, because those lyrics certainly add another depth. So as you saw, I really didn't want that episode to end. You know, it really caught me by surprise. I actually really lost track of time in that sense. And, you know, that's certainly a good thing. That's a good sign. You know, I was so engaged. I I mean, that whole final segment is just so much fun. It's so entertaining, engaging, and intriguing, right? Because that setting, that hotel, there is something really strange going on there. They seem to be stuck in a loop, right? This supernatural, I don't know, reoccurrence, essentially. And of course, makes sense that it's the 8th floor, the infinity symbol. So the setup there, it is so enticing, right? So the moment that screen goes to black or fades to black, as that one character whose name I cannot remember, but she's the timid one. She's making these noises. That's kind of like her thing. If you listen, you'll hear the squeaks and squeals. Her reaction to things. She's an interesting one, isn't she? But according to Himeno, I hope I'm saying that right, she seems to have a skill set that she is really quite impressive, but for the most part, she's quite timid and scared to kind of put anything into motion. So yeah, that character is one to kind of look out for, I suppose. The other one is Arai, I believe. It'll get me a few tries to get the names right. But Himeno is one of the standouts. Himeno is perhaps one of my favorites already. Listen, if you're asking me right now who is, I don't know, my crush from this anime, it's Himeno. I mean, it is. It just is. I mean, listen, beyond just that aspect of it, this is a fascinating character, but I love everything about that character, man. Himeno, oh my goodness. The look is so striking, so striking. That eye patch, that beautiful eye, right? They gave us a few close-ups as well. I mean, it's stunning. It's stunning. It really is. There's that one shot and you see the detail in the eye patch. Oh, and then of course, you see that on the surface, Himeno has a certain type of persona or personality, but then I think you really get to see the true Himeno, or the Himeno underneath in those flashbacks, right? Oh my goodness, or at least that one flashback near the conclusion, right? And notice how Aki is presented by this character, this mentor type figure who is in the opening of the series. Now, once again, I feel like I recognize that voice. I do. But I can't quite, pinpoint who it sounds like, but I know I've heard that voice before. It's a distinct voice, right? It's a really fantastic voice, actually. But notice how that mentor character mentions Aki being rude, but he should be fine now, right? So now you see Aki all these years later, he's kind of in that position. And, then you have Denji and Power that he's trying to kind of, mold into something presentable. But that flashback kicks in once Himeno tells Aki, don't die on me. And then, Aki kind of recalls their first meeting. And there, she also tells him, don't die on me. And of course, a bit of insight on Himeno as well. You see that she's freshly bandaged. Her eye seems to be freshly bandaged. She seems to have the cast on her arm. So it appears that she made the deal with the Ghost Devil really quite recently, right? Perhaps in a last-ditch attempt to save her life, right? And she mentioned that 6 of her partners have died, and now, here comes a new one. And, she's asking him, are you going to be useful? Do you think you're useful? Because don't die on me, right? In that sense, a bit of a death flag, early days, and especially given the fact that it's Aki, right? But it feels like there's a bit of a death flag there, isn't there? But, in that sense, isn't Aki's goal essentially a suicide mission? How do you even begin to, think about taking down the Gun Devil, this force of nature, right? This devastating presence. How? Listen, Denji is a different prospect. The Chainsaw Man is a different prospect. And, that battle or that fight, once it does happen at some point, that is going to be something. That is going to be something spectacular, right? But, that's a different story. That's Denji. this is a being, an entity that doesn't even really have a name, according to Makima, right? Back in episode 2, that there's no term for you, and you being Denji and the Chainsaw Man. So he's rather unique. And of course, Makima knows this. She's known this for some time now, and she immediately kind of claims him, right? At the end of episode 1, and then kind of continues into episode 2, and from that point on. And of course, there's the moment or the segment in this episode as well. She's a master manipulator. In that sense, now I'm starting to think, because I do maintain that she is a devil of some sort, but now, I'm starting to think about the possibilities in terms of the type of devil she might be. But yeah, going back to Aki, it actually is kind of crazy that he's going after, or he's been after this entity since that fateful day, right? Piece by piece, the gun flesh, the hunt for the gun flesh. In that sense, again, I must draw the comparison to Jujutsu Kaisen. It kind of felt like the domain expansion, that hotel, right? And Himeno mentioned something quite interesting, right? She said, did this devil, and they thought it was just like this random devil, right? It's a unique looking devil, but she made the point of kind of asking the question, did this devil just kind of come across it, or was it given a bit of that flesh, a bit of the gun devil's flesh, right? So things to take note of for sure, right? Because I do feel like there is a possibility, or one of the theories I have here right now is it's possible that it's an inside job, right? That it is something that is quite deliberate by design, that was kind of put into motion. And I'm speaking of, the rampage of the gun devil, right? 1.2 million people dead in the span of 5 minutes, was it? And, the gun devil is in the States, yet the impact is so devastating that it's reaching countries like Japan. Either it's that the impact is so devastating, or it's moving at such immense speeds that it's able to kind of just zip around in that 5-minute time span, right? It's born in the States, and then, moments later, it just kind of rushes through, or just kind of goes through Japan as well, kind of like this tornado, like this hurricane, but even more intense, right? And, Makima does mention the speed at one point, right? That it moves at such speeds that, the flesh kind of falls off as well. So yeah, it could be that. But it certainly appeared to be on a global scale, right? It kind of changed things forever. And as Makima mentioned, the fear of devils across the board increased, right? That all devils became stronger than ever before. So I don't know, man. You have to start looking at some of these possibilities, who could benefit from that by putting that into motion, and then having the devils become even stronger than before. Going back to the collateral damage and the immense impact of the gun devil's appearance, a limited appearance in that sense, a character that is a major component of the story, Aki, right? That flashback, it's a heartbreaking flashback, but, the presentation of it is so beautiful, so beautiful. The score, oh my goodness, right? It has this almost enchanting quality. It's quite transportive. That whole flashback is really quite transportive. But, I love the transitions as well. As Makima is explaining the gun devil to Denji, right? It's essentially an exposition dump about the gun devil. And, in that sense, it's a major plot thread that is being introduced, and kind of tying a lot of these characters together at this point. And, I thought it was really quite interesting that, Aki gets to hear about Denji's newfound motivation, his newfound resolve about taking down the gun devil. So now there's a possibility of a different type of dynamic, right? Aki has an ally in that sense, right? Someone who, the reason for the goal might be different, but it's the same goal, right? Taking down the gun devil. So, that could allow for a bit more bonding, maybe. And you see the role the media played in all of it, right? That persistent reporting kind of just, further instilled and kind of played up that fear and paranoia and just kind of escalated all of it further, right? So you see there's kind of bit of a look at how media might be used in the future of the series as well, and that it can be this really powerful tool, right, in certain hands. So yeah, let's see how media comes back into it. They showed us how it was kind of used in the past, or not used, but the role it played in the past, because they realized, okay, they need to censor a lot of this because that certainly played its part in all of it. But now, you could see how it could be used deliberately for that reason. But, the interesting setup here about the gun flesh, and once they do have enough of it, that it is going to start being attracted to the main source, to the gun devil itself. So, there's even a possibility, there's set up here for a potential jaw dropper, right? Because imagine they do have enough of the gun flesh. They do accumulate enough of it. Imagine it starts being attracted to its source. And then imagine if that source ends up being something or someone that is essentially hidden in plain sight. Because I feel like there's a lot of that going on here, right? I feel like, Makima is a prime example here, kind of essentially hidden in plain sight because, again, like I mentioned, I do think she's a devil of some sort. There could be others. There totally could be others, right? So imagine that, unless I'm completely kind of misunderstanding the concept of the gun devil. I don't know, like Denji mentioned, I thought Denji's assessment was kind of spot on. He didn't quite understand it completely, and I have to agree, I don't completely understand the gun devil in that sense, not quite yet. Maybe that's by design. Maybe I just don't have enough information yet. But this specific theory or possibility kind of requires the gun devil to be something similar to Denji or the Chainsaw Man in that sense, right? Someone hidden in plain sight potentially. But let's move on to Denji, right? It's a direct continuation of the cliffhanger from the last episode. Denji, after kind of having it all set up as this monolithic holy grail of a moment in his mind that he's working towards, that he's earned essentially. And in that sense, it feels like Denji feels the need to earn that affection. And once again, he's on that path through Makima's newfound or newly presented proposal. But yeah, he finally gets to do it. And I love the presentation of it. I love the lack of background score, right? I love the atmospheric sounds of the bathroom. It's really focusing on Denji's breathing. Really kind of puts us in the moment, doesn't it? But yeah, he gets to do it. And yeah, it's not really how he expected it to go down or how he expected it to be. I mean, in that sense, like I mentioned, it was set up as something so impossibly incredible in his mind that it was never going to live up to any of that, right? And, it's not that the boobs themselves didn't feel the greatest or anything. It's just not anything that special, right? He realized it's just not, and then maybe it allowed for a bit of introspection on his end. Not maybe, it did. It did allow for that. He kind of had to reassess that whole part of his life, essentially, that, this whole time he's been chasing. And, the chasing is the thing that was most exciting, perhaps. He is kind of like a dog. That is a reoccurring theme here, isn't it? That, once he finally got to the stick, once he finally kind of caught up, the thrill was gone. The thrill was in the chase, right? It's about the journey, not the destination in that sense. Ultimately, it just wasn't meaningful to Denji. But, enter Makima, who was immediately concerned about Denji's current disposition, right? She noticed that something's off here and she cannot have that because she needs Denji to be performing at peak efficiency, right? She cannot have him down in the dumps. She needs him motivated. And, listen, before I go any further, yes, that scene is a little bit creepy, isn't it? Given the power dynamics there. Imagine if it was flipped, right? But I think it was beautifully animated. Beautiful presentation, of course, the hand animation on display once again. The intricate detail of it all, right? It just felt so authentic. It really did. And also, Denji actually did learn something here, right? She was able to kind of give him a lesson as well. Yes, she's manipulating him, but that lesson about intimacy being much more impactful or fulfilling if you do know the person, if you do have that connection. And of course, a thing that Denji's always needed is that human connection, right? And Makima certainly understood. She could read him like a book. She can read the situation like a book. She knew, he requires human connection. And she provided that. And she's enticing him with more of that, much more of that. But there's also that moment, right? It's quite a specific one of her biting down on his finger, right? Now she implores him to memorize or remember this exact force that she's putting into it so he could know it, even if he's not able to see, right? She tells him to remember. So to me, that felt really specific, right? It felt like it was something to take a note of. Right then, I think that should do it for this one. If you enjoyed that, consider dropping a like, consider dropping some comments, give me your thoughts. If you're interested in full length or full opacity, and reactions to the endings, consider checking out the Patreon page. The link's in the description and the pinned comment. And also there's links to social media, if that's your thing. Right then, thank you so much for joining me, and thank you for your time, as time is precious. And I do hope to see you again soon for the next one. Until then, take it easy.